Hello, 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 everybody. Hey, I got to do a little mic test here. So if you can hear me, would you please type into the comments? We're going to do a mic test. Alleged, alleged, alleged opinion, opinion alleged, opinion alleged, alleged opinion. If you can hear me, if you'd please type that in there. Hey, everybody, this is Everett with Ohio for Freedom, the program that is focused for the foreseeable future on talking about things in the church that shouldn't be in the church. And do we have a lot to talk about? And everything is alleged. And other things are my opinion. And just for good measure, I'll throw in this is all for entertainment value. So we got a lot of ground to cover, folks. So let's get started.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be long.
Listen, folks, I understand that it's Thanksgiving. So the day after, I'm wearing black in honor of Black Friday. No, I'm just wearing black because that's what was in the Costco aisle earlier today. And we had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you did too. But there's a lot of people on here, and it's the subject matter. And I appreciate that. I did promise myself that twice in the program, we would mention that it is okay if you support the program by going to the link that you see there. There was a comment that I wanted to comment on. And okay, RJ is saying Joni's dirty daddy. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. And everything is alleged in opinion and entertainment. Living as it is in heaven says this is messy. Oh Lord, I'm spending a little bit of time. Oh, and I wanted to say, hi to Pringle. And the way that things worked out, we had a new birth in the extended family this week. It was amazing. It was not, never mind. There's a new grandchild in the Ohio for Freedom extended family, and it was wonderful. So Pringle, I have to go back and re-listen to most of that, but I'm really glad that you're in the house. So folks, listen. I'm going to do just a tiny bit of revisit. I mean, teeny tiny from the last episode. The primary thing that I want to make sure that we get to in this episode is, yes, Joni Lamb's dirty daddy. And it's just looking at a court case that was filed 13 years ago now, but nobody's talked about it. But here's some things that we're going to try to get to. Joni Lamb's dirty daddy. Marcus Lamb's 7-year affair, alleged, opinion entertainment, and orchestrated PR. Joni Lamb's public statement, we are going to look at that. And we're going to look at some of the witchcraft abuse audio. Oh, there's something I want to say about Jimmy Evans. Just want to point something out about his heavy hitter witchcraft protector role. Jan Crouch's after death loss to granddaughter Kara. Jan Crouch's death after loss to granddaughter Kara. I typed that wrong. Matthew Lamb's resemblance to Mr. Dubois. I have got Victor in there. That's a mistake. And so we'll start with that. Now, so here's what I'm going to do. And please type in where you're from. We appreciate all of that. And I'll try to interact with comments as much as I can. Now, I played this clip on the last program, and this is a TBN clip, but it does represent kind of more than a mindset, a spirit set, a theological bent, where some of these major TV personalities come from and what they seem to think of the little people. I might play all of it. It's only a minute. Here we go.
Meekness is not weakness.
What kind of shirt is that?
It is velvet-covered steel. Bingo.
Now that's Matt on the right.
Describing Moses in
Matt Crouch,
but also his dear daughter. And
look at that face.
You know what's funny, Dad? There have been a few attempts in the TBN history to upset TBN, to stop TBN, there have been a few fools in the 38, 39 year history coming up on 40 years. And you know what? Any attempt at stopping TBN, they have no idea who they're actually pushing into the corner. You and Mom get pushed in a corner, God help you.
That's not exactly true.
That's a lesson I've learned from you, seriously.
God help anyone who would try to get in the way of TBN, which was God's
plan and his purpose.
I have attended the funeral of at least 2 people who tried.
Hello.
Okay, now take a look. Now that's what they think. anybody that has anything critical to say of TBN, God help them, because they don't know who they've pushed into the corner. And then Paul, who, yes, and just to review, if you weren't in the last program, we played the audio from Jan Crouch's granddaughter, who loved her grandparents, and even at the time of the audio loved her grandparents. But she said, yes, absolutely, Paul Crouch was an alcoholic. No, I mean, not just a one-time binge. This was like an ongoing, but anyway, was an alcoholic. And she also said without equivocation that her grandmother had told her several times that this man that you're looking at on your screen was actually not even Paul's son. He was the product of an affair that she had, I believe, in 1954, but an affair called him a love child. And then there was a viewer that typed in the comments, and I don't think they saw my reply because I was asking for a link. So I just did my own Google search. And this is the man that Jan Crouch said was the father of Matt Crouch. And if you look at look up Fred Du Bois, Mr. USA, and by golly, yeah, it's like you almost see little bit of resemblance there. So maybe some stuff is hidden that people don't want you to know. And guess what? Stuff comes out. Here's another little interesting development. Then we'll get into the Joni Lamb's Dirty Daddy. This is just interesting. Canadian broadcaster pulls program from Daystar due to ethical deficits. I became aware of Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson during the COVID years and beyond. She's a former host of CBN Canada, is extremely smart and deals with patriot issues and freedom issues and Christian issues. And she's just awesome. And I guess she had a program on Daystar. I've only seen about 10 total minutes of Daystar, but she announced just a day or two ago that she's pulling her program. So that, y'all, happened. Also, Susan Puzio, once again, thank you, Susan, alerted me to the fact that this is an MSN repost of a New York Post article. Family Feud erupts at Christian TV network Daystar as fired heir claims family member assaulted young daughter. So this thing's picking up some steam, folks. It's picking up some steam. And then we're going to touch on this later in the program. And you can easily Google this. TBN's Jan Crouch was found guilty. That's what that means. Liable means guilty for covering up granddaughter's alleged rape. And TBN, pardon me, finally had to pay out $2 million, but that was after spending $10 or $20 million to try to make it go away. But see, these things don't go away. I want to read just a portion of scripture, and we're going to get into Joni Lamb's Dirty Daddy. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 1, moreover, brethren, I would not that you would be ignorant. All our fathers were under the cloud, all passed through the sea, and all were baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did eat the same spiritual meat and drank the same spiritual drink. For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But with many of them God was not well pleased. They were overthrown in the wilderness. Skipping down to verse 12, wherefore let him that thinketh he stands take heed lest he fall. It's probably a good idea that everybody take that scripture to heart. We're watching what looks like the fall of some institutions, some Christian business, mega church business ministry, mega businesses, and then even in some individuals. But I'm not sitting back here smacking my lips with satisfaction and clapping. If God is cleaning the church, let him clean the church. And Lord, I'm taking heed lest I fall, because if anybody thinks he stands, take heed lest they fall. So we look at this with a very humble attitude. And but we do want things to be right in the church. Ray says, so Daystar should have learned from TBN, and we better learn from what is happening at Daystar. Oh, man, is that very, very well said. Okay, so let's get into why I...
Hello.
Let's do this.
That's another whole...
Let's get these guys... Okay, that's gone now. That can't come back and confuse me. Okay, so here we go. The man that you're looking at, this is from a Facebook post. He passed away in pretty early in 2020. His name was Bill Trammel. Bill Trammel was the father, or still is the father, but he's passed away now. Bill Trammel was Joni Lamb's father. Now, what you're looking at is a court case. And this court case was filed in early 2011, like into January, first part of February. About 19 pages. I'm not going to pull all 19 pages up and try to read them because I'm going to actually read a lot from this lawsuit. And there's no reason for me to mention the lady, the female's name, because she wants to move on with her life and she didn't do anything wrong. And in just a moment, about 4 slides in, I'm going to show you the attorney firm that filed it. And these guys ain't quacks, y'all. They're real attorneys, highly respected. And so this is not National Enquirer. This is not some kind of quirk or some kind of cheap shot. This is a credible allegation, y'all. And it goes like this. In or around 2004, the plaintiff began reporting directly to Bill Trammel, that would be Joni Lamb's dad, for some but not all of her duties. Mr. Trammel was the administrative manager of special projects. Bill Trammel reported solely, that means directly, to Marcus and Joni Lamb. Bill Trammel is the father of Joni Lamb, his wife, and Joni Lamb's mother is Sandra Trammel, who also worked for Daystar. Once, when Mr. Trammel was investigating the claim of another female employee of Daystar that she had been sexually harassed by a certain individual, Mr. Trammel asked plaintiff whether she had ever been sexually harassed by that individual. Plaintiff reluctantly admitted that she had, and said that the harassment had included inappropriate touching of her body. So I just want to point out what I've already said. Bill Trammel was Joni Lamb's dad, worked for Daystar. Bill Trammel was the plaintiff in this case, the one bringing the case. He was her boss for most of the stuff that he did. And at one point, as Bill Trammel, Joni Lamb's dad, is looking into a sexual harassment claim within the Daystar organization, asked the plaintiff, who partly reported to him, if she had ever been sexually harassed, and she admitted to that. Now, that could be like a first stage of grooming, and I'll point out in just a little bit, in or around the summer of 2007, Mr. Trammel, that'd be Joni Lamb's dad, according to the lawsuit, alleged, opinion, entertainment, began talking to plaintiff. And of course, why am I saying that? Yes, I'm interrupting myself, and I'm allowed to interrupt myself because evidently Joni Lamb and team are like sending out threatening letters to people and saying, we're going to sue you, we're going to shut you down or whatever. I am not concerned about that, but I will kind of play by the rules and say alleged, opinion, entertainment. Even if it's stuff that I'm pretty convinced of. And around 2007, Joni Lamb's dad began talking to plaintiff about sexual things during the workday. Plaintiff made it clear to Joni Lamb's dad, Mr. Trammel, that she didn't like this. Nevertheless, his inappropriate comments continued. Indeed, they became more and more explicit and more personal. By 2008, Trammel, Joni Lamb's dad, was telling plaintiff that he wanted to be a husband to her until she found one, saying that no one could love her the way he would love her if she were plaintiff's husband. In 2008, Trammel had a secret camera installed just outside his office so that he could see if anyone was approaching his office door from a television screen or monitor inside his office. Michael Harris, they're naming people. Michael Harris, a Daystar employee, installed the camera. Mr. Trammel then began calling plaintiff into his office for what he referred to as quiet time. During quiet time, Mr. Trammel would make plaintiff hug him tightly for long periods of time. He would often put his hands very close to plaintiff's breasts or buttocks during these extended touchings. On more than 2 occasions, Mr. Trammel told plaintiff to sit on his lap. Now, these are just allegations, because all we're doing is looking at a court case that was filed in court by a real attorney in a very credible law firm, they're allegations. So let's just say that of course we never would, but let's say that we took these allegations seriously, maybe even like partly believed them. So you got Joni Lamb's dad that is being very, very creepy with this employee, finds out that she had been harassed earlier in the lawsuit. There wasn't time to read that and put everything on there. He already knew that she had been abused as a child in an orphanage in Korea. So he kind of knew something about what she'd been through in the past. That's why I say perhaps it kind of looks like advanced grooming, but it moves from that to saying, oh, I could really be your father. There's a place where he says that. And then he says, oh, I could really be your husband. You see the progression? And then begins to make these creepy comments, and then begins to have this plaintiff where she only reports to him, and the creepy comments get worse and worse. And then he installs a camera, allegedly, in the hallway so he can look and see if anybody's coming. And then once he's got that installed by this Michael Harris, who was an employee, so see if they put Michael Harris on the stand, he'd either have to tell the truth or perjure himself. And evidently during these, they begin to have these quiet time, and he'd get creepy. Now, it doesn't sound like there was any overt, it was like first stages or whatever. Very, 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 very creepy. This is Joni Lamb's dad. Joni Lamb's dad. Let's just allegedly. So let's get back. On December 8th, 2009, plaintiff stayed home from work because she was sick. Anybody ever had to stay home because they were sick? Joni Lamb's dad, Mr. Trammel, brought soup to her house and insisted on seeing her, though she did not want him to do so. So he just showed up with some soup. Oh, I'm your dad. I'm your husband. I'm your husband. I'm your dad. And I got a camera, and the camera shows me that you haven't been in the office today. So I wanted to bring you some soup. While he was there, he received a call from his wife on his cell phone. In plaintiff's presence. Now, see, you could triangulate that, and you could track down those cell phone records. Ooh, see, yeah, okay. Mr. Trammell lied to his wife about where he was. Plaintiff asked him, "Why did you lie?" and asked him to leave. Now, this is where it gets extremely unfair to the plaintiff. Later that day, Mr. Trammell was confronted by Joni Lamb. Joni Lamb had to confront her dad. Maybe Joni Lamb's mom said, Bill's up to it again, or Bill's up to it maybe for the first time, or what is your dad doing? So does Joni Lamb call in her dad and say, Dad, what are you doing? If you're doing anything wrong, you got to go, or you're in trouble, fess up. That's not exactly what happened, allegedly, in the lawsuit. And Sandra Trammell, she confronted Joni Lamb and Sandra Trammell about the visit to... later, Trammell was confronted, and her mom was confronted about the visit. Now, this is important. Dates. On November 18th, 2010, the undersigned attorney, and I'll show you that in just a moment, met with a lawyer named John Turrell Lynch IV, who has a longstanding professional relationship with Daystar, to notify him of plaintiff's claims and to deliver a letter stating that he is representing her as well as two other former employees of Daystar. And if I click ahead, his name was James Austin Fisher of Fisher, Holmes, and Welch, and that's who he was. Now, let me just add this as a summary. The creepiness just progressed. It just progressed, allegedly. It got to the point that when she stayed home sick, allegedly, Joni Lamb's dad, that's why I say dirty daddy, but it's all alleged, took it upon himself to visit her without an appointment or without permission under the auspices, I just wanted to bring you some chicken soup or some kind of soup. She didn't want him there. While he's there, the phone rings from his wife. He lies about what he's doing. Evidently, the wife knew he was lying. Why? Because maybe, and this is me just thinking out loud, maybe one of those creepy follower guys that Susie Lamb was talking about was following daddy. Maybe this wasn't a one-time or a one-off. But at any rate, that incident happened, and the next day, Joni Lamb confronted her daddy and her mommy. And what happened? Well, what happened was, on the part of the parents, nothing. What happened to the plaintiff was she was demoted, even though her prior reviews were all in the excellent, category. She was, on paper, she was a really highly thought of and highly accomplished employee. There was nothing wrong with her employment performance. Oh, wouldn't it be weird if later somebody would allege that someone's performance standards just didn't meet up, and yet if all these allegations were actually true, then it would almost present like a pattern of denigrating someone's performance when there's actually evidence to the contrary. But I digress. So she was demoted, pay was cut, and then eventually terminated wrongfully. Hence the lawsuit. Now, folks, I'm an ordinary guy. We had to buy a second turkey today because we just had a birth in the extended family, and they would like to have a turkey dinner. So I went out and did that, and I did just like you. I've been here, been there, been buying this, buying that, going here, going there, trying to pull this together as best I can. But what I want you to see is that this is a lawsuit that was filed in early 2011. But in the lawsuit, it says that this credible attorney of 29 years with a spotless record with the Texas bar had met with a Daystar attorney to let them know they were representing 3 females. And what was he representing these 3 females about? Was it extortion? Was it the devil trying to exploit somebody's pain and turn it into their game? No. He was representing them allegedly because of employee abuse. She had been sexually harassed. She'd been wrongfully terminated. She'd been treated unfairly, and the treatment that she received was completely out of keeping with the way that a similar situation would have been handled if she had been a male, different gender. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why the attorney for the plaintiff went to meet the Daystar attorney on the 18th of November in 2010. So let's now, what happened with that lawsuit? Well, at least for a while, all of this was sealed, and I believe it was Trinity Foundation, but I could be wrong about that, but filed a suit to have these sealed matters unsealed, later. But why were they sealed? Now, I was going to pull video of Lance Wallnau interviewing Joni Lamb and talking about the 2 greatest years that we've ever had since, Marcus died and I'm at the helm, and the 2 greatest years that they've ever had since she's in this wonderful marriage with Doug Wise and all of that. And in that video interview, one of the things she says is that in the history of Daystar, there have been 40 lawsuits and we've won them all. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. There may have been some petty lawsuits that you've won, but if you settle a lawsuit and then seal it, have you really won? Is that what happened? Ain't sure. But if this lawsuit had been defeated, it seems like you'd want that record out there. And we can't find any record of defeat. So was it settled? Were they paid? I don't know. Maybe somebody else knows. But that is Joni Lamb's Dirty Daddy portion of the story. Alleged entertainment opinion. But now we're going to look at another lawsuit that was filed by the same attorney because he's representing 3 individuals on employee-related matters. And I want to read this as a summary statement because I will be honest with you folks, being of the average intelligence that I am and all the stuff we're chasing down simultaneously, I had to kind of read through these several times and look at others and kind of finally really wrap my head around what was really happening. And I believe this statement, codifies it. The purpose of the visit. The November 18th visit by the attorney, that'd be the attorney for the plaintiff in the first case that I read, and all 3, wasn't about extorting Daystar or the Lambs. That was not the purpose of his visit. It was about demotion, firing without cause, and unequal treatment. Let me just stop right there. I want to emphasize it. The reason the attorney, this is opinion, this is entertainment opinion alleged, the reason the attorney met with them was to say, I'm representing these three people that you have wronged, that you have treated out of accordance with your policy, with your handbook, and with Texas state law and federal law. You've mistreated them, and I'm representing them. Now, that's a reasonable thing to do. Why go to court if somebody will say, you know, you're right, let's come to an agreement, and we need to make it right by these people? And how else would you make it right? Do they want to go back there and work? I don't think so. So there'd have to be damages paid, damages for wages lost, pain and suffering, etc. What was the amount? I don't know. But it could have been $2.5 million a piece for three individuals, which would be 7.5. And is that unreasonable? Well, if you start there and work down, no, or maybe, I don't know. But that's why he met with them, was because he was representing three oppressed individuals. It was about demotion, firing without cause, unequal treatment. To show the unequal treatment, the action would use Marcus Lamb's affair as the biggest, most egregious example. Let me repeat that again. To show the unequal treatment that these ladies had received, the action would use Marcus Lamb's affair as the biggest, most egregious example. Marcus wasn't the focus. He was the example of unequal treatment. They weren't going there to extort Marcus Lamb, but they were going to show that you did this to these three ladies who haven't done anything wrong, while you ignore Marcus Lamb, who allegedly had a 7-year affair with no demotions, no cuts in pay, no moving his desk from his office to out in the hallway. All right. So maybe this is a good time to go to a piece of video. And I think I'm going to play it right now. Wait a second. Was I playing it? I thought I was playing it. Here's what let's go right here. I got the wrong one. I'm going to play this real quick. Folks. And you know what? This is the first minor mistake that I've made. Here we go. I think this was on one of the appearances I made. We'll play it.
This is a very special program because we are going to be sharing our heart with you today. And I just want to say right at the front, sweetheart, that you and I are strong, and I think that our marriage is better today than it has ever been.
You are just an absolute angel, and I am madly in love with you, and you mean so much to me.
However, I do want to share something with you, and it is this, about...
I want to make sure I do the fair usage thing, and we only play things for a certain amount of time. Please listen to what she's going to say, and then we will resume.
Well, several years ago, Marcus and I went through a challenge in our...
Now, please notice this. I'm just going to comment on the fly. They're going to admit to an affair, but do they just come out and say it, or do they soft pedal it, diminish it, deflect, make it not really an affair, but at the very end, okay, maybe kind of almost. Anyway, you judge, you decide.
And I discovered that he was having an emotional relationship, if you will, with someone, and that it had turned into an improper relationship.
I take 100% responsibility. Joni has no blame. The other person doesn't have any blame. It's all, I don't even blame the devil. It's all on me.
These are some of our most private moments, but there actually are 3 people who were not involved in what we're talking about today or affected by our marital challenge they're now saying that unless Daystar pays them $7.5 million, that they're going to take our story that we just shared with you to the media.
You see,
Well, I'm going to say something about that. My opinion, alleged entertainment, is Joni Lamb just flat out lied into the American people's cameras. That was a total lie. The way she spun that was a lie, but I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to call Joni Lamb, you are a liar on that one.
These three people that Joni shared with you, they're trying to take our pain and turn it to their gain. But ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to take God's money and pay to keep from being humiliated, I guess, or exposed, or exploited, whatever.
That is not what happened. Evidently, and it's alleged in the lawsuit, that these three individuals, in other words, it was kind of an open secret among many people. People knew that Marcus Lamb was cheating. And there are multiple sources, alleged Opinion Entertainment, that this, in these interviews, they did one on Celebration, then they did Dr. Phil, and they did like Good Morning or something like that. We're going to get back to the lawsuit in just a moment. But they did several of these, and he would say, yeah, there was a brief affair. But you know what? That's not what sources say. Sources say that that went on for 6 or 7 years, 6 or 7 years. And yet it had been contained to the public, alleged, entertainment and opinion. It had been contained to the public, but it would have come out as a secondary, not a primary factor in the lawsuit, because you treated 3 people like they were nothing. You treated them like dirt, like CRAP. You mistreated them. And so any good attorney would do their homework and do some background and ask the basic question, maybe an HR related question. Well, if that had been a male, do you think they would have been treated the same way? Oh, no, because such and such and so, and by golly, even the president, Marcus Lamb, most of us know that for 7 years. And of course he would mention that to them and say, in other words, Shazam, I think a revelation just hit me. I think that attorney thought to himself, you know what? It ain't right that they demote and then fire these ladies that have been harassed, sexually harassed. It ain't right if they do that when they allow the guy at the top of the ticket, when they allow the president and founder to carry on camera, off camera, and behind the scenes having a 7-year affair. I think that attorney realized that it's not. So let's get back over to here. I'm going to go through this case. This is the second plaintiff. Began working for Daystar in 2002, February. She remained an employee of Daystar till March 10th, 2010. When her employment was and this is going to be a lot of reading of this case. That's just what I'm going to do. Her employment was unlawfully terminated under the circumstances described below. So let's read them. She was the producer of The Joni Show, a production starring Joni Lamb. Throughout her employment, plaintiff worked closely with Joni Lamb, who was her direct supervisor the entire time she was employed by Daystar. During the course of plaintiff's employment, plaintiff began to date a male employee of Daystar. The relationship was not prohibited by any policy of Daystar. On January 11th, 2010, Joni Lamb instructed plaintiff to terminate her relationship with the other employee. For approximately 2 hours, allegedly, Joni Lamb berated, belittled, and harassed plaintiff. Joni Lamb told plaintiff that she had shamed both Daystar and Joni Lamb, called plaintiff a liar and a bad example, and told plaintiff that she was unhealthy. Joni Lamb also asked plaintiff explicit and inappropriate questions about her relationship with the other employee. No one at Daystar made any such demand of the male employee whom plaintiff was dating. Now, I don't know why Joni had a problem with this producer of her show dating this male employee. For a minute, I thought, well, was he like going through a divorce, but he was still married? Was he a sex therapist or something? I don't know. I don't know. Was he married? Was he separate? Was there some other reason? But then I thought that wouldn't, because any organization of that size would have in a Christian ministry business would have some kind of a morality clause. But yet this is in the lawsuit, and it said there was no there wasn't any policy against her dating that individual. So maybe it's just that Joni thought she could tell people who they could and could not date. I don't know. No one at Daystar made any such demand of the male employee. Why didn't they go after the male? Why didn't they go after the guy? I don't know. Daystar deliberately humiliated plaintiff. She was subject to numerous instances of verbal abuse and insult, some of which were directly related to her gender. On March 10th, 2010, plaintiff was fired without lawful excuse. The male employee whom plaintiff had been dating was neither demoted or terminated as a result of his relationship with plaintiff. So there's the reason that the attorney met with Daystar attorneys on the 18th of November, 2010. The second person that we just read about that he was representing was unlawfully terminated, fired on March 10th. Why? Because she dated a guy. She was fired because she dated someone. And yet, if that was so terrible, the male that she was dating, he wasn't fired, he wasn't demoted, nothing. So it's unequal treatment. So if you're an attorney and this is your client, you are representing somebody that has been harassed by their boss, has been treated unfairly, and been unequally treated based on gender. And that is why the attorney met with the Daystar people on the 18th of November. I hope I'm explaining this right. It's the best I can do. Let's keep reading. Now, members of the news media were invited to the studio to watch the production of Celebration, which was broadcast November 30th. Please remember that date. So, on the 18th of November, a credible attorney with a powerful firm and an individual who had a 29-year spotless record has a professional meeting with Daystar attorneys to let them know that he's representing 3 individuals that have employee claims against the Daystar network. And as a secondary effect of that, to prove the disparagement of treatment, they would have to mention that the Marcus Lamb affair had been going on, according to some sources, for 7 years. So how did Marcus and Joni decide to deal with it? Allegedly, Opinion Entertainment. What did they decide to do? Did they decide, you know what, we were wrong. We need to make that right. We need to cough up some cash and we just need to bless these people and make it right and move on. And that could have happened, but that's not what they did do. What they did do was on the 12 days later, on the 30th of November, remember that date. In addition, off-the-air statements were apparent. It was clearly communicated to them that 3 persons were attempting to commit extortion. Well, see, that's a lie. That's a flat-out lie. They weren't committing extortion. So listen, if you are wrongfully terminated, if you are mistreated at work and you have a valid case, and you stand up for your rights, are you trying to extort the people that abused you and took advantage of you? I don't think so. That's not the definition of extortion. But this is what Joni and Marcus told the media. This was reported with the specific use of the word extort attributed to Marcus Lamb and stories published on that same day and thereafter in Dallas County. The above described episode of Celebration has been broadcast by Daystar multiple times. It has been and is still available for downloading on Daystar's website. Not anymore, I checked today. On 1 or more episodes of Celebration, defendant has encouraged their viewers, that would be Daystar, to watch the November 30th, 2010 episode on the Daystar website. Now, before I read this, and this is, I'm not going to save it for some aha moment. It's kind of interesting, and I'm just throwing it out there because I think this is my opinion, my alleged entertainment opinion. I think what Jonah and Marcus did on November 30th was wicked and evil. Wicked and evil. I don't think, this is my opinion, my alleged entertainment opinion, I don't think that the attorney that met with them and filed this lawsuit, I don't think that he's a quack. I don't think he's a nuisance attorney. I don't think that he's an ambulance chaser. I think he's credible, and I think they had a credible case, and I think they'd been wronged. And I think Joni and Marcus, rather than do what was right and admit that they'd been doing things like covering up for Dirty Daddy and covering up for Daddy Marcus and doing all these other things, who knows what else was going on, instead of doing right and making some changes, they went on the offense, because now they realized, because of the way they did business, it was finally going to come out about the 7 years of Marcus Lamb messing around. So they twist the story and say, there's people trying to extort us. The devil's using people trying to get our money. We ain't going to let them do that. That's exactly what they did. It's exactly what they did. On December 2nd, 2010, Marcus Lamb and Joni Lamb appeared on the television program Good Morning America. Now follow this, folks, because this is a subtlety that's extremely powerful. In the introduction, journalist Robin Roberts referred to Marcus Lamb, and in his hearing stated, he says he's going public because blackmailers are threatening to tell all unless he hands over millions of dollars. Then in her first questions, Ms. Roberts asked, let's talk about the extortion first. Can you tell us when you were first approached and how you were approached? Did you get a phone call? Was it an email, a letter? How? Now listen to this. Now they're saying that they were extorted. People are trying to extort them. Like you get a sneaky phone call. Hey, you better listen to me. Some kind of, no. A credible attorney already showed you his name, met with them in a professional manner on November 18th. It's all above board, all out on the table. Isn't any mystery here what's going on. And yet, Lamb is feeding to these media outlets, including Good Morning America and Ms. Roberts. Oh, they're trying to extort me. They're extorting me, all right. So Robert says, let's talk about the extortion. She's going with his narrative. Oh, she's a journalist, all right. Can you tell us when you were first approached and how you were approached? Now, please listen very closely. Did you get a phone call? Was it in an email, a letter? How? In other words, Marcus, how did you find out that these people are trying to extort you? Email, phone call, letter, how? Marcus Lamb dodged the question. Evidently, he did not want the viewers to, and I'm just reading from the lawsuit that alleges what I'm entertainment opinion looking at, viewers to learn that the supposed extortion took place in a meeting with two of Daystar's lawyers in their office, and that the person communicating the supposed threat was not the three supposed extortionists, but a licensed attorney with 29 years of experience and a spotless record. Instead of answering the question, Marcus Lamb said, well, a couple of weeks ago, the information came to us that these three people were demanding $7.5 million in order to keep from going to the media. This, I'm reading from the lawsuit that alleges these things that I'm opining about for entertainment purposes. The statement was false and defamatory. Segment concluded with Miss Roberts asking, and Marcus, a final question about the extortion case. She's full blown, but and why wouldn't they? This was really pretty smart on the part of Marcus and Joni, because, all right, it's finally going to come out what they've been covering up, and they're going to have to deal with it one way or another, but they want to spin it in a way that is to their advantage. And so they concoct it. This is my opinion, entertainment. So they concoct this way of dealing with it. And of course, the secular media is going to pick up what the secular media loves. A Christian in sin story. They love that. So of course, they're going to give it to them. And then they're spoon feeding the narrative that they want them to go for. And I'm sorry, maybe they paid this Ms. Roberts off and the network off, or maybe she just fell for all of that. But anyway, obviously, he had led her to believe that the identities and location of the three supposed extortionists were unknown and that a manhunt was underway. See, Marcus Lamb is making them think these three people are out there somewhere and they're trying to extort us. Nobody knows who they are, but we're going to find them. I called the law. I called the sheriff. I called the sheriff of Boone County, and he's coming down and he's going to. But that was a lie. He knew exactly who they were. He knew exactly who these individuals were and why they had gotten in contact. And it wasn't to extort, it was to have things made right after they had been wronged. He knew who they were, and he knew who their attorney was because the attorney had met with them on their premises. Calm down. Instead of correcting this misconception and telling the truth, the attorney for the three women had named them in a letter to Daystar's lawyer on November 18, 2010, and their whereabouts were well known. This is in the lawsuit, y'all. Marcus Lamb lied. Quote, yes, both federal, state, and local officials are in investigation right now. Because Roberts had asked, is anybody trying to find out who these people are? Lamb looks her in the eye and says, you know, when we're done, I hope you can send a seed offering. But before I get to that, let me just tell you that state, local, and federal officials are looking for him. He knew exactly who they were. He knew their attorney, and he knew the actual reason that they had been contacted. Folks, let me go back to my summary little slide. And maybe it wouldn't have happened to you this way. It took me a while to wrap my head around this. It's like, this is just bizarre. The November 18th visit by the attorney wasn't about extorting Daystar or the Lambs. It was about demotion, firing without cause, and unequal treatment. To show the unequal treatment, the action would use Marcus Lamb's affair as the biggest, most egregious example. Marcus wasn't the focus. He was the example that they would have to use of unequal treatment. Okay. I'm afraid to look at how many people are on this because that's, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. So where are we from here? I apologize. This is just, our crack production staff. Oh my. So that may be it. We are going to now remove. So we're going to keep moving, folks. We're going to keep moving. I will say, I'm going to repeat something that I said in the last program. I personally, this is me. I don't think we need this stuff. I just don't think we need this. I don't think we need to be in the first. I want to be one of 1,000 to give 1,000, so I can get me a certificate that has a fake Israel at the top and a fake signature at the bottom, and I can add my signature to it, and it's suitable for framing. We don't need that. And I had somebody comment and say, well, we need all this Christian TV because some people can't get. You know what? What happened to Shiloh? When Shiloh was gone, Kingdom of God moved on. What happened to Solomon's temple? It was destroyed. They're still Jews. There's still a gospel. What happened to the second temple? Same thing. Folks, listen. What is it about TV that likes to think that it's indestructible, and yet we have so many instances in my lifetime that prove it ain't? It wasn't indestructible when Jim Bakker was around. It wasn't indestructible when Jimmy Swaggart was around. It wasn't indestructible when Robert Tilton was around. It wasn't. So anyway, and let's keep moving. I want to play a piece of media that's next in my rotation, and I think it will help us talk. Okay, let me just play this, and it'll get us moving.
It's not going to work, and you have been given the opportunity to say.
Okay, so I'll set up. This is from the audio. I was going to go live Wednesday night. I'm so glad I didn't. I got talked out of it, and then bam, Julie Royce released the full audio of this meeting. And I'm going to say that we're going to deal with some witchcraft, spiritual abuse audio right now. And I don't say that to be inflammatory. I don't say that for hyperbole. Folks, that's actually what you're going to hear. You're actually going to hear that. And this is Jimmy Evans. I'll have something to say about Jimmy Evans in just a bit. But this is Jimmy Evans and Joni Lamb trying to twist the spiritual arm of her son Jonathan and his wife Susie.
And you have been given the opportunity to say, I submit and stay, and you won't. That's what you just said.
No, I didn't say I won't. I'm just saying I need to pray about it.
No, you're saying you won't.
No, sir.
Yes, you did. You said, I just wish you would respect my personal conviction. were in this room talking because your personal conviction
Well, that would
wouldn't
be
read that.
that would be my preference. I mean, if you had a very strong conviction about
All I
something,
want to hear is that you'll submit to my authority. That's all. I don't want to hear anything else. I don't want to hear about your personal convictions. I have never asked you to do anything that was outrageous. I have not made a decision since I took over the leadership of Daystar that was outrageous, that wasn't in line. You can ask Arnold. He has said that together we have led with excellence in every decision that's been made. It's not like I'm going to fall off the wagon and make a...
I'm going to interrupt right there. So that's Joni. They're dressing, Jimmy Evans is helping Joni to beat up and twist the spiritual arm of Jonathan Lamb. But you just said, you can ask Arnold, whoever Arnold is. Arnold must be important. But you can ask Arnold. Every decision I've made has been a great decision. Ever since I've been at the helm, every decision that and folks, I'm from the South, so I can talk South a little bit. It just happens. But every decision that I've made has been a great decision. It's been a perfect decision. Oh, really, Joni? So it was really a great decision when you started chasing the guy that dumped his wife 2 months after your husband died. And you chased him with the private jet that was paid for first with COVID money, but then, whoops, you see us. Okay. And it was repaid with donor tax-free funds. And you made the decision, Joni, to fly. Other people have covered this and have got the details. But I'm pretty sure my recollection is pretty accurate that it was at least 9 romantic looking getaway trips with a private jet. That was a really good decision. That was a great decision. All right. Really looks good. Good image for the ministry. And it's a good use of those kingdom. We pay for everything by being cheap on soap funds. Really? Or was it the same kind of awesome decision? Just great leadership. I can't believe it. Arnold likes this decision. Billing, Daystar, was it the $100,000? Was it for your honeymoon or for the wedding? I get confused. But one or the other of those, allegedly, Miss Joni making stellar great decisions, because you can trust me because I've been doing this a long time, sent a bill to Daystar to pay for her personal private wedding or honeymoon, or maybe it happened twice. I'm not that impressed with your decisions, Joni. I'm not. We ain't. Some of us ain't. And somebody, there was the first comment in this thread was, I wish you would just leave this alone. I wish you would leave this alone and let us sort this out privately. Okay. Not totally open to that, but trying to be a little bit, how about this? How about this? How about nobody talks about this publicly so that you can sort it out? We'll start doing that. Just shut all the cameras off. Okay. Shut all the transmission feeds. Stop broadcasting to the world and just go dark and just go completely and totally private. And while you're doing that, we won't talk and we'll let y'all sort it out privately. But really, until you do that, you're wanting to have it both ways. You're wanting to be as public as possible, and you're wanting the rest of us to be private. And I've talked to the rest of us. I represent the rest of us. We ain't going to do that. How about this one here? Let's get into this.
And you can trust me.
No children in the room, please, because a Christian leader is speaking.
Doug, and you know that.
I'm sorry?
You cannot read a comment about Doug, and you know that. If tomorrow you were on Ministry Now and you had to read a comment about Doug, would you? The same comment you didn't read?
Oh, if I had to submit to her, then absolutely.
That's what he just said. I submit to you, Mom.
So you would read a comment. The comment y'all wouldn't read, you would now read.
Okay, the pay dirt of this clip is coming, and I just want to say this, that I listened and actually recorded the entire hour and 30, just downloaded it, screen recorded it from the Royce report, and we're going to play one of just the most, it's just off the chart things in just a moment, but there is one thing that Jimmy Evans said that was actually right on the button. And he was very condescending to Jonathan the whole time, but he said, son, you've grown up in a bubble. You've lived in a bubble. And actually, that is maybe the one time in this interchange, in my opinion, that Jimmy Evans was right. Jonathan seems to be a very sincere, at this point courageous, but he hasn't grown up in the real world. It's not his fault. He's grown up in a kingdom. He's grown up privileged. And what is it with this whole model? What is this, folks? I'm going to be on a rant here for just a minute. But where did we get this idea that we as the body of Christ have to get behind with our sacrificial dollars and our sacrificial giving, and we have to support somebody that's getting tax-free money, and we have to hang in there, stick with them, be their donors until they get to the place that they have built a tax-free empire that belongs not to the Lord, not to the kingdom, but belongs to their family. Help me. I want to help. Listen, you know what? I've made some dumb choices throughout my work life. I'm kind of playing catch up in my white-haired years. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to please just start figuring out how you can, liquidate this and liquidate that and send it to me for my private my private retirement account so that I can leave it to my kids. That's just ridiculous. But that's what we do with these Christian businesses that disguise themselves as ministry. I might have lost somebody on that, but I'm going to stay with it. Here we go.
That's what he's saying.
Jonathan is struggling and hesitating a little bit because he's in an extremely difficult position. I think ultimately he's done the right thing. But part of that is just coming to the reality that, this bubble that I've been living in, it's actually not a real bubble. But I'm going to shut up and let this thing play. I want you to hear it. Ooh, that's a long pause.
So now you're in trouble with her.
So now you're
Why are you in trouble? You're making me some bad guy.
I'm not in trouble with her. I'm
just speak your mind. I'm telling
you. Bad, Susie. You've got him by the balls, and you know it. And that's exactly what you
they're
do.
really scary. They think horrible things.
No. That's not the case.
You by the balls.
And other people see it. You
talks
see it
like
in your
this?
eyes right now, and you look at him like
Who
you gave him a
talks?
look.
I gave him a look of pity. Like I'm trying to. You're cornering him. This is so evil. What is happening?
No, what's evil
and
is
you're telling me that I've got him by the balls.
What's evil is you and the spirit that's driving you, and the things you've done, the things you said, the things you've written, the people that you've talked to, the people who've told me things you said that are disgusting.
Like what?
That is what evil.
Like what?
You know, Susie.
What? I don't.
You
Tell me.
know. Oh, please, don't even try it.
What are
okay?
this?
Don't.
Can you tell me what this?
Okay, I'm going to jump out of that. You actually heard Joni Lamb. First of all, if you noticed, and I think Pastor Ray from the Unction made a very, very good point that I heard earlier today. Anytime somebody is trying to divide one spouse from the other, run. And that's exactly what they're doing. They don't want Jonathan to be in unity with Susie. And then when it's obvious that Jonathan is staying consistent with the view that he and Susie together have, then Jonathan's mother is looking at her son saying, she's got you by the BALLS. Who in Christian ministry talks that way? Answer, nobody. Who in Christian business disguised as a ministry talks that way? Probably way more than you would want to think. We got more clips we want to play. I'm just going to keep it moving. I've actually not made two. Okay, now listen to this. You want to hear witchcraft? And I am not using hyperbole. You want to hear witchcraft? You're going to hear it. And here it comes.
I'm trying to wonder why you're so stubborn and why you argue so much. And I'm wondering if maybe you feel like you're being loyal to your dad.
I'm going to make this real quick comment and helps you with fair usage anyway. Jimmy Evans was really... Now, listen to Jonathan Lamb. He is a sweet guy. I do not have that personality. He is diminutive. He is soft-toned. He's being so easy to get along with, and yet Jimmy Evans, the indomitable Jimmy Evans, is saying, why are you being so stubborn? At one point, Jimmy Evans said, you've been so disrespectful to me. Jonathan, I listened to the entire thing more than once. And he never got out of that soft and diminutive, respectful tone. You know what Jimmy Evans was upset about? Was the fact that I've been doing this for 40 years and you don't agree with me. He would actually give kudos or affirmation to Susie. Well, you have your conviction. Okay, I respect that. But why don't you respect it where Jonathan's concerned, Jimmy? I think that made sense. But let me
Just responding to her. So basically,
Hater,
Don't ignore what I just said.
You're loyal to your dad or
I'm
God?
asking you why you're being so
I'm loyal to God. I'm loyal to God above all. Like,
Well, God wouldn't be pleased with this.
No, God's not
God's
pleased.
not pleased. And you've opened up yourself, both of you, to demonic activity in your family and with your kids by your rebellion against me.
I don't see it as rebellion.
It's not rebellion.
It is rebellion.
you're
and
submitted in every way.
It will be recognized.
Listen.
I mean, you'll bring a curse upon you and your kids.
Let me play
You've
that
opened up
again.
yourself, both of you, to demonic activity in your family and with your kids by your rebellion against me.
I don't see it as rebellion.
It's not rebellion.
It is rebellion.
you're
and
submitted in every way.
It will be recognized. I mean, you'll bring a curse upon you and your kids.
That is a supposed Christian mom, a supposed Christian ministry leader, and she's saying, if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, you're going to bring a curse on your kids. You just heard it. Those are her words. You will bring a curse on your kids. If you don't bow down and absolutely tell the world that it was absolutely fine for me to, after your father's death, to chase a man who dumped his wife 2 months after your father died. And I'm not even going to get into all that. And if it's not okay with you that I flew that jet all over the place and billed the ministry for the $100,000 for the trip or the honeymoon or the wedding or whatever it was, if you don't bow down and agree with that, then your kids are cursed. You know, this really sounds demonic to me, folks. Well, anyway, that's manipulative. Which when somebody's trying to place a curse on you, which that's what she's doing, place a curse on you, unless you do what they're telling you to do, run. As Marianne from the Truth Be Told says, run, Forrest, run. And this is a mother saying this to her child, to her son. This is really, really bad stuff, y'all. This is really, really, really bad stuff. We're at 101. I'd like to go over Joni's statement, but I think I think we're going to be good. But I just want to I want to close on this. She relies, Joni Lamb in this this interchange relies on all these people that she won't name. Lots of people have told me this. I thought we weren't supposed to gossip. Why are you gossiping, Joni? You're talking about something you won't name a source. And then, well, this pastor that wrote a book told me this. Who is it? Well, I won't say his name. Well, this guy who's very, very prophetic, he said this. And Jonathan would ask, who is it? Well, he doesn't want to get in the middle of this. What? Anyway, but the heavy hitter there is Jimmy Evans. This is going to seem way out of the blue, way out of context, but it only takes a minute. I'm going to play it, explain why it is not way out of context, and then we'll put a wrap on things. And thank you very much. Please like, please share, please subscribe. I promised myself that I would mention at least twice in the program that if you would like to support the program, there's a link. Yeah, we do have expenses. You know, there's lights and utilities and whatnot. You're welcome to give if you want. But I want to play this. I want to play this for you right now. This is about Jimmy Evans and the heavy hitter in this, the gravitas in this meeting. Here we go.
I called Dr. Jimmy Evans, the founder of Marriage Today, the Tipping Point podcast, and the founder and president of XO Marriage. Jimmy had at one time served as a spiritual advisor to Mark. Those I sought counsel from said that Jimmy was very likely the only spiritual advisor that Mark would listen to. Dr. Jimmy Evans called Mark on Monday afternoon, and Mark returned his call on Monday evening. Dr. Evans repeatedly told Mark Driscoll that he needed to repent. Each time, all that Mark would say is that Jimmy was a spiritual father to him and a friend that he loved. But Mark was unwilling to repent and still has not repented. As well, Dr. Jimmy Evans informed Mark that what he was doing and not stopping these things regarding Alex past and James River Church was resulting in death threats and horrible abuse to our James River Church reception. Within an hour, I called
some people may not even be familiar. To me, it was a huge prophetic deal back in April of this year. James River Church, that's Pastor John Lindell. They have this great, big, ridiculous, greater, stronger men's, better men's, whatever conference. And they had a guy who was not a born-again Christian that climbed this great big Asherah-looking pole thing with a sword in his mouth and so forth, and all this demonic imagery. It was absolutely occultic, and sword swallowing can't be sanctified. It's occultic in its origins. Mark Driscoll, who I'm not trying to defend, just very gently and calmly called out and said that was like an Asherah pole. John Lindell went nuts because he had been exposed for either complete negligence on screening the talent or being totally okay with that demonic occultic thing going on in their conference. And so, to silence Mark Driscoll, who didn't say anything after it was over, who did he call in to back him up and give him some gravitas and give him some credibility? Dr. Jimmy Evans. What is it about Dr. Jimmy Evans? Is he like the guy that you call, hey man, we're trying to do something that ain't exactly scriptural, but we want it to be scriptural and we want it to be accepted, and they're calling us out on it, so I need you to step. What's it going to take to get you in here, Jimmy, to say what we're doing is godly? You've been doing this 40 years. If you tell them it's godly, they're going to go for it. So what's it going to take? And remember what I did for you and what I can do for you. That's kind of my take on it. Zerubbabel says, I don't know that he's a goon. He might. Zerubbabel. Let me be fair. Zerubbabel said Jimmy is a goon. Simply that. Yeah, but they go to him as kind of like a fixer. That's what they do, folks. I appreciate you being here. Support the program if you can. I haven't even prepared final remarks except to say we can do better than this. We can do better than this. And I haven't even talked about the egregious offense. Here's how I will close, and this happens sometimes. Lord, help me close on this and not come up with another close. At one point in that audio, Jimmy Evans appeals to Romans 13. Well, she's the voice of God to you. I could have played that. You've already heard it. She's the voice of God to you, and you got to listen to her because Joni is the voice of God to you. And then he says, Romans 13:1 says, let every soul be subject to the higher power. There's no authority that isn't of God. The powers that be there are put there by God. And so you have to submit to her because she's the authority that God put here. Well, there's two problems that I have with that, Mr. Jimmy. You're testifying against yourself, Mr. Jimmy, because if every soul is subject to the governing authorities, then those same souls should have reported the suspicion of child abuse to the governing authorities. And you're peculiarly silent, brother, about that. They didn't have a choice. When you found out that there was probably credible suspicions of child abuse with Joni Lamb's 5-year-old granddaughter, you ain't got a choice, Doc. You got to report that if you believe in Romans 13:1. But then you try to take Romans 13:1 and try to beat Jonathan over the head with it. And folks, I challenge you. I like the Bible Hub website. I know it really well. Use any source. Go to Romans 13:1 and go to the original words and go to the word that says governing authorities, exousia, and click on the Strong's Concordance number. And you know what you will find? Not one time in the New Testament is that talking in any way, shape, matter, and form about church government, let alone a para-church Christian business disguising itself as a ministry. So that's witchcraft. When you take these things and twist them around and then use those things to control, manipulate, whenever you control and manipulate, that's witchcraft. But when you use these things to control, manipulate, twist things around, and then Joni pronouncing a curse on her own grandkids if they don't submit to her authority, ooh, I'm pretty happy that I haven't. Listen, y'all, we'll talk to you soon. I hope you had, please like, share, subscribe, and all of that. Hold on for the ride, but I'll remind you of the scripture. Lest take heed, if any man thinks he stands, take heed lest he fall. We need to walk humbly and softly before the Lord, but let the truth come out. That's all I got time for, folks. Have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio. And God bless the United States of America as you shine the light in the American church. Good night, y'all.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom.